Cool. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for one of our evening Meet Us At series. We were just talking about how we're getting so close to being able to do a few things in person, which we're really thrilled about. But I really appreciate you joining us in this format tonight, live from the kitchen of Chef Maque here. So our esteemed instructor, resident chef for the UNO Hospitality School Culinary Program. So thanks for being here. Tonight we're going to be cooking a blackened redfish with a corn mac chow, which looks amazingly delicious. So like I said, I'd love to be hosting this session at my home because I'm guaranteed not to do it as well. So feel free, if you have questions as we go, please type them in the chat. Chef's lovely daughter Zoe is assisting and she'll be able to feed him questions as we go. So with that, I will turn myself off, and so you get a larger screen of Chef, and we'll go from there. Thanks again.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's your pal, Chef Maque. We're going to cook some blackened redfish. Now, this creates a lot of smoke. If you don't want to blacken it, you can just simply saute it. But blackening is a classic Louisiana dish thanks to Paul Prudhomme, who almost single-handedly decimated a species of fish by doing this in the late 70s, early 80s down at Cave Falls, which no longer exists. So I'm going to walk you through it. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. We'll do the fish. I'm going to make a lemon butter sauce, or a beurre blanc, which is a wonderful sauce. Simple ingredients: white wine, a little vinegar, shallot, and butter. All right, and then we're going to make our Maque Choux, which kind of translates to let's see, choux is cabbage, and so it's like mock cabbage. I don't know. It's like almost like a fusion or crossover dish of some French influences as well as Spanish influences. So what we're going to do first is get our butter sauce reduction going on. And when we talk about reduction in cooking, we're talking about reducing the amount of liquid, right? So we're going to evaporate off the liquid and get down to a term called sec, or dry in French. And I've learned the hard way to do this first, because if you burn your reduction, you got time to start over. So we're going to get that going. First thing first, I'm going to take our friend the shallot, and for me, being a stickler on knife work, this is one where it doesn't matter. Okay. Just going to trim our ends. Just a rough chop on this. Go through one more time. And this is going to go into our pot. And to this, we are going to add, and I spent a lot of time perfecting this recipe, particularly where I was at Muriel's, is where I really dialed it in. And what I do is, for every pound of butter, I do a cup of white wine and a quarter cup, yeah, it sounds right. Cup of white wine, quarter cup of rice wine vinegar. Right, so we're just going to make a ½ pound batch today. So we're going to use our wine. Now here we have a very nice 2016 Graves White Bordeaux. We're not going to use that. We're going to use something a little bit cheaper. Here is some box wine, Franzia, right? Non-vintage wine, Central Valley, California. And we're going to do ½ cup. And to that, we're going to add 1/8 cup of rice wine vinegar. And I like this one. This is Moroccan gourmet seasoned rice wine vinegar. It's got a little bit of salt and sugar, a whole lot of flavor. It's really a go-to ingredient of mine in a lot of salad dressings and sauces. And so we'll add about 1/8 cup of that. And we're just going to add that to our pot. All right. And we're going to put this on low and keep an eye on it. All right. And hopefully we don't burn it. Okay, so Next up, we're going to start on our corn maque choux. This is corn when it comes out of the field. All right, we're going to chuck it. The important thing here is to get rid of all the silks. Okay. I grew up in outside of Chicago in Illinois, in corn country, some of the best corn in the world. So I got very good at an early age at shucking corn. That was always, all of us kids would get that detail. And this obviously can be done in advance. We'll do one more. We'll do a 4-year batch. I find corn maque choux. As you hear, I'm one of the few people left in the world with a landline, and of course, it's going to ring now. Get our silks off of here. And the next thing we want to do is cut our corn off the cob. Now, I find for this, take a bowl, put a towel down, take our handy dandy serrated knife, corn in the bowl. The trick here is not to go too deep. You don't want cob, and don't go too shallow, because you don't want to leave any meat on the bone, so to speak. Oops. See, this is unrehearsed. And also, hang on to a couple of these cobs, and I'll show you why here in a minute. Maque choux, it's just been a go-to of mine for a long time. When I was at a Chapalaya, every year at Jazz Fest, they had a great connection for soft shell crabs. So I would run during both weekends at Jazz Fest, fried soft shell crab, sweet corn maque choux, maybe a little fresh crab meat or some asparagus, and we would just sell them by the dozens. Absolutely delicious. Okay, so there's our corn. I'll put that to the side for a minute. Okay, so next up, we'll mise out the rest of our ingredients.
Could you use frozen corn for this?
Sure, yeah, if you had to, you could. Fresh is always better. Fresh, frozen, then canned. But you could certainly use, I wouldn't use canned corn, but frozen corn could certainly work. The other thing I want to do here, a couple steps. I have a cast iron skillet. These are just like, I've had these, I think they were given to me when I was 18 or 20, somewhere in there. These were my great grandmother's, actually. So they're about 100 years old at this point. And I'm just going to turn this on a real low fire just to start getting it hot, because we're going to want this about as hot as we can get it. The other thing I'm going to do is on this back burner, I'm going to melt this butter. And this is what we're going to dredge our fish in to adhere the seasoning. Okay. Now, next up, salute. Hard to find good help. We're going to cut an onion. As you can see here, I got a few little crawfish friends that are going to hang out and watch. All right, and how to cut an onion. As we've talked about before, an onion grows in the ground like this. Just took that piece off. This grows up out of the ground, green. So we cut that. Everything's attached here at this root end. So we just kind of want to do a little trim like that. Look at that. Cut it in half. Take our peel off. Now to dice, we work with the how the onion's constructed. See, everything's kind of in layers here, like an onion. And now we're gonna do our knife this way. And I'm being careful not to go all the way through the onion, right? We want it all to stay together. A sharp knife is really good to have here at this point too.
Is it not necessary to wash the corn?
No, at that point it's all in its original wrapper. I don't worry about washing it at that point. Now, if for some reason you had some contaminant on it, then yeah, I would maybe wash the corn then, but typically no. And we'll do the other half. Okay. Butter. See, when you cook, you want to use all your senses. So I'm constantly listening and smelling and looking for cues. All right, so there's our onion. I'm going to turn on our skillet. I wonder if I need the bigger skillet for this. Yep. All right. I'm going to upgrade. I kind of don't have anything in between, so here's what we're working with. All right. Butter's melted. Oops. Shut that off. Leave that to the side. As you see here, we're just slowly reducing our white wine vinegar and shallot mixture. Take a little sip of wine while we wait for our skillet to heat up. And for me, it's a couple ways to tell if the skillet's hot, right? A lot of times I use the back of my hand. It's a little less sensitive for me, I guess, than the front of my hand. You feel it. Do the water trick. We're almost there.
Any advice on how to cut an onion without crying?
Work expeditiously. The faster the better. There's all sorts of wives' tales. I don't know. I keep it like that cut side down for one, and it also seems like some onions are more potent than others. This one wasn't particularly bad at all, so no, I really don't have a trick. There's all sorts of crazy things out there. Find whatever works for you. I just kind of cowboy through it if it does tear me up a little bit. Or when you get to a position like I was in for a while, you just have somebody else do it. All right. Where's the rest of them? Put that away. So for the Maque Choux, you could start with oil, but it's kind of a buttery day, I think. So we're going to start with some butter. Is it a thing yet where people watch butter melt? Kind of like the, what is it, the AMSR?
ASMR?
ASMR. Thank you, Zoe. I could watch butter melt, but I couldn't watch paint dry, so go figure. Okay, so as soon as our butter's melted, we're going to add our onion. It probably looks like about 2 cups of onion all day. We'll get this sauteing. If you can't do that, just do this. if you want to learn how to do this, get a saute pan, like the smaller one here, put a piece of bread in it, and practice flipping a piece of bread. It doesn't make much mess when it hits the floor. After you're done with the bread, put some dry rice in there and practice with the rice, and then you can work up to the real thing. Another thing I always do whenever we sweat onions, we add a little bit of salt. I always use kosher salt and only kosher salt, unless I'm using sea salt. The iodized salt, that's good for melting ice. Okay, so we have our onion. I'm on kind of a medium-ish heat. It's probably high for most home stoves. We're gonna go to our bell peppers now. I have a red and a green pepper. You could throw yellow in here too if you wanted to, but the way I see it, the corn's yellow. So when I do bell peppers, typically like so. Always fingers bent up. All right. And then we're going to dice these up. Look at that, sloppy, sloppy. My mother would be so mad at me. A serrated knife works a lot of times really well on bell peppers if you don't have a particularly sharp knife. This one happens to be pretty sharp. Right, Zoe? She hates that one too. All right, we'll do our green real quick. And I hear our onions needing a little toss. Sauce. Maybe kind of heat just a little bit. And we'll go ahead and get these red guys in the pan. These little bench scrapers, if you don't have one, they're pretty damn cheap. As you can see, they come in handy.
How often should you sharpen your knives?
Well, there's two things. There's sharpening, which involves taking off metal, and then there's honing. We have what's called a steel, right? And this hones, right? So this happens to be a diamond steel, and you'll see chefs will do this number, all right? Maintaining the angle, and what this does, if you were to look at a blade under a microscope, it's full of little feathers, right? Think like a duck's feathers. And in time, the feathers kind of get a little bent and out of shape. And just like how a duck preens its feathers and zips them back into line, that steel does the same type of thing. It works like a magnet, puts the feathers back in a straight line and hones the knife, so it feels sharper. Sharpening actually involves taking metal off the blade. So I sharpen my knives once, maybe twice a year. I take them to a steel pretty much every time I use them. As you can see here, we're almost down to sec. We'll get this green pepper in here. Then I also highly recommend investing in a decent knife, at least one chef's knife. This will do 90% of what you need to do. Buy a good one, take care of it. Don't put it in the dishwasher. Don't let your kids take it outside and do crazy things with it. And it will last you a lifetime. take care of your knives. You are more likely to cut yourself with a dull knife than you are a sharp knife. Most people don't believe that, but it's true. A sharp knife, the knife does the work. A dull knife, people tend to push it through, and that's when you slip and have a little accident. All right, so red pepper or onion. The green bell in here. Now, I kept this kind of, the Maque definitely vegetarian. A great thing would be to throw some tasso in here right now, which I actually meant to do and left it at the lab. Bacon also works very well. You could saute this whole thing in bacon or just leave it as is. And we're actually going to hit this with a splash of olive oil to boot. Hit one more time with some seasoning, salt, some fresh cracked pepper. Only use fresh cracked. The ground is just it's flavorless if you go side by side. Okay. I'll go ahead and add our fresh cut corn. And you can just go through here with your hand and break it all apart. It's like it might be, sometimes this is an eyeball thing. So what I'm actually going to do is pull a little bit of this out of here. This will be great for an omelet in the morning or something. See what that looks like. Definitely want to have probably about 50% corn. Here's the dog looking for something spilled on the floor. Next, I think we can add this back in. Yeah, okay. We'll edit that part out in post-production. Oh wait, this is live. Okay, so now we're just gonna let that cook for a couple of minutes. And we can see our sauce here. We're pretty much there. Also, see, looks like my burner's crooked. All right, so we're gonna stop this. I don't remember if I put it in the recipe or not, but in professional kitchens at this point, I always add just a tiny bit of cream. So for like 4 pounds of butter, I'd add about, oops, that was way too much. I'd add probably about that much cream, a tablespoon or two. And what the cream does is work as a stabilizer for the emulsion. So we're just gonna shut that off and we'll revisit that in a few minutes. All right. Corn's going along smashingly. Taste. Good. It tastes like hot. We're gonna add a little more salt. Show him. This is Jenks. He thinks he's going to get something out of this tonight. He's being quite persistent. I know. All right. So I think to this we're also going to add just a little splash of wine because why not? It'll help steam the corn a little bit. We'll add a little splash of wine here too. glass is getting too hot by the stove. Okay. We just want to get the corn to where it's pretty much soft. And I'm going to put up my heat on my cast iron just a smidge. Okay. What else? I think what I'll do here, I absolutely love fresh herbs, and fresh thyme is one of my favorite. I know this wasn't in the recipe, but I'm going to throw some thyme leaves in here. I'm just going to leave them whole, and I'm going to pull them off the stem. I could also just throw the whole stem in there and pull it out at the end, which is what we're going to do with our butter sauce. Get these little these little leaves in here. It's just such a wonderful, bright, summery, springtimey kind of flavor. Works very well with corn. And you could also hit some Creole seasoning in here if you wanted to. I think our fish is going to be spiced enough, so I'm just going to keep this kind of clean and natural flavors. With a little splash of cayenne or maybe some crystal hot sauce would work very well in here. Oh, that's so good. Bourbon would also work very well in here. After all, what's bourbon? It's got to be at least 51% corn, right? So now we're going to add our heavy cream. Let's see, about that much. That's probably half, 3/4 of a cup. Again, sometimes this is kind of an eyeball thing. Talking about hanging on to those corn cobs, probably up to a cup, but I'm going to reduce it down. So, turn down my heat. So these corn cobs, this is nothing but flavor in here. All right. Now at the restaurant, when I'm going to make 5 gallons of all I'm doing is running the back of my knife down here, and you can see that is nothing but corny goodness. And by corny goodness, I'm not talking about my jokes. So we're actually going to break that and drop the cobs right into the Maque Choux. What I would do at the restaurant is actually take some cream and reduce it with the corn cobs. I've made ice cream this way, like a Mexican corn ice cream. It's delicious, nothing but flavor. I think my daughter's resigning as a videographer after tonight's episode. I may have an opening. All right, so we'll just leave that right here to finish. And just kind of keep an eye on it. If it needs a little more cream, add a little more cream. If it needs a little more wine, add a little more wine. Check it for seasoning. We're not playing along. Okay, I think it needs a little more salt. And a few turns of pepper, and we're going to move on to our fish. You good? All right. Just move this. Well, maybe we'll do this. We'll do this. All right, let's finish our butter sauce, and then we'll do our fish. Our skillet's getting real hot. Okay, I have a half a pound of butter here. Unsalted butter. I always cook with unsalted butter. Salted butter, it's fine for some things, but it also kind of masks when the butter has gone bad. Now, you want to use cold butter for this. Yeah, I just cut it into little pads like this. And what we're going to do is slowly emulsify our whole butter into our sauce. I'm just going to slowly stir. And when I put the butter in, I add a little bit of time. And we're going to strain all this out. So, all right. So this is about as classic French as it gets here. This beurre blanc literally translates to white butter sauce. This dish doesn't necessarily need it, but damn, it's good. And why not? It's a great technique to have. Pretty much what I do is just kind of watch my emulsion, keep it on a low heat, and you stir it constantly. I like these guys, these heat-tempered rubber spatulas. You could use a whisk if you're in a stainless steel pot. If you're in an aluminum pot, you don't want to use a whisk because the stainless steel is harder than the aluminum, and every once in a while, it creates a chemical reaction and turns your sauce green. I've had it happen to me with, it doesn't affect the flavor, but it looks awfully funky. I mean, I guess it's great if it's like March 17th or something, but not so much if it's St. Patrick's Day. Sorry, someone didn't get the correlation there. But green creme anglaise isn't fun in May, or green butter sauce for that matter. So we just keep stirring it until all the butter is emulsified. It's kind of a temperamental sauce. If it gets too hot, it breaks. If it gets too cold, it seizes up and just turns back into butter. So you pretty much want to make this as close to service time as possible. When I worked, what station was it? Saute 2 at Mr. B's. You'd make 30 pounds of this a night. In case you didn't know, the B at Mr. B's stands for butter.
How much butter is that?
How much butter? It's a half a pound all day. So, and you certainly can skip the sauce, but it's very, very delicious. This is great on fish, on crab, on veal. I'm trying to think of what it's bad on. Can you think of anything, Zoe? Almost got all of our butter in. Right. And as you get further along in the sauce, you can add your butter a little quicker. And we're also going to squeeze a lemon. Always fresh, never canned. And that brings us back to our sauce consistency. Oh, shit. So now let's strain this. I should probably do that. Sometimes I wish I were left-handed. Only during these demos, though. Now we strain out the shallots in time. Oh, God, that's good. All right. So we've made a wonderful butter sauce. We just want to keep this in a warm spot at this point. Checking out Choux. I think we're pretty much there. Seem to have misplaced my tasting spoon. Oh, that's right. I don't want it now. I think we're on the money here. Okay. So now we're going to add our crawfish. No. I'm lazy at the end of the day. Okay. So here we have Louisiana crawfish tails. And this is a no-brainer, guys. Only Louisiana crawfish tails. Don't buy the other stuff. All right. You know where they grow that stuff in China? You have to get foreign. I would go with Spanish over Turkish and Chinese. All right. But these are beautiful Louisiana tails. And this is kind of an eyeball thing. You know, you have to decide if you want any left over from the morning. So if you just want to load up your Maque Choux, crawfish. Oh, man. What do you think? All right, go ahead and take these guys out of here at this point. What do you think? More crawfish? Or is that good?
A little bit more.
All right. Okay, so we're good. All right, now we're going to do our fish. Here's some nice fresh Gulf drum fillets I picked up today. Now on the menu, when it went out, I just put fish, right? Blackened fish. I never like to lock myself in. I did this especially when I was doing catering for weddings or something, and you're booking something that's 6 months out. I don't know what fish is going to be available, so don't lock yourself into something that's not going to be fresh. I always go and I pick out what looks the best, right? I was hoping for mahi-mahi, but I didn't get mahi-mahi today. Looked like the best deal. So, and redfish actually is a drum. This is just black drum. Now, the original way, the Paul Prudhomme way of doing this, right? Where's my butter? I think I might just use the skillet for this. So I will use my lovely water meter heat trivet there, and our blackening season, right? You can make your own. I do. I think this is like, this is the gold benchmark, right? The Paul Prudhomme stuff. My Creole seasoning I make is basically a bastardized ripoff of this. This is not a place where I would use Tony Chachere's. Tony Chachere's is majority salt. You want something that's a little lower in sodium. All right. And this is going to produce some smoke. So I'm going to turn on the hoods. Turn up my burner. See. My rocket hot on that puppy. All right. So what you want to do, pick up your fish. Okay. Butter. Then right into our seasoning.
How much butter in the whole dish?
More than you want to know. That was maybe
an ounce and a half of butter. You just want enough to let it stick. It's more of an eyeball thing than a measurement thing. And if you wanted to skip this part, and I have, you could just always just pack on the blackening season to the fish. Usually this produces a whole lot more smoke. That tells me my skillet wasn't hot enough. So another great kitchen tool to invest in, and this is under $20. It's what's referred to as a fish spatula. We call it a fish spatula because it has these little cuts in it, right? So, and what this does is it reduces drag on the fish. Right? Fish tear it apart very easily. So, whereas a solid spatula, it's more drag on the fish. It's likely to break it apart. This will not do that. Ooh, look at that. Scared? This isn't the business for you.
Sorry.
We got a stunt chef in here. Right, you ready? It might happen again. We'll take a little peek. Okay. Oh, under fire. All right, but you see that we have a lovely blackened crust on there. Now this can be finished in the oven or on top of the stove. I think these guys are thin enough to just fit them on top of the stove. To back to temperature. Half our crawfish. 50, 50, 50 good. Right. Now with fish, how do you tell when it's done? With a thin fish like this, it's gonna actually just kind of push apart. I'm going to show you here in a minute.
About how many minutes each side for the fish?
Four. Depends on the thickness of the fillet. You know, so it really is. I'm going to show you how to tell when it's done. How we looking, dude? All right. See, we tightened up. Most of our cream is reduced. Jinx the dog is still waiting for a handout. All right. Seal of approval from the videographer. Check our fish. So with fish, sometimes you can just see we're not quite there yet. This guy, I'm probably going to have my own. Challenges of cooking live. The fish will actually push apart once it's done. Oh, you know what? No, we're good. We're good. We're done. Okay, that's done. Make a plate. All right. So we have a nice Choux. Build our plate. Our delicious corn maque choux. I'm going to take a fillet, go right over the top of that. Favorite garnish of mine, just some long cut chives.
Did you keep the butter sauce warming? Will it get solid off the fire while we finish cooking?
Keep it in a warm spot. And don't forget to put the green onions in the maque choux. Right. I don't want to get the email. What did we do with the green onions? We forgot about. Here we are. Want to get another piece of fish out of our pan. And again, you don't have to blacken it. You can just season it. One of my favorites with this too, speckled trout. Dust in a little corn flour with some Creole seasoning. Sear it that way. You can use the nonstick for that. It's delicious. Cook with what you like, right? So, but this is kind of a Louisiana classic, right? Blackened fish. Oh, wait, what about our sauce? You didn't use the butter sauce, right? So here we have our lovely sauce. And for me, I just kind of drizzle this around. It gets a little lost, maybe a little on the fish. Doesn't need much, and this dish really doesn't need the sauce, but it doesn't hurt it either. And here we go. Blackened drum, crawfish corn maque choux, lemon beurre blanc. All right. 4 minutes past 45 minutes. Not bad. Any questions or trying to figure out how to work my hood. There we go. All right, and Mom, I'm sorry, but yes, I used a metal spoon in the nonstick pan. It's my pan. Enough of that ridiculousness. Any questions about anything?
Anything, guys? You
Is
can
anybody
type in the
still
chat.
watching?
Everyone's saying
Yeah,
it
they're all
looks
here.
really good.
I just
Can't see
figured
it.
people
Everyone's
bailed
just
at
like
this point.
delicious, delicious. Okay, well, I think that looked delicious. I'm really hungry now. I should have gotten the ingredients, but I'm just gonna have to do it and fly solo. But I think I've got it down. Maybe.
You think you're hungry? You should see my dog here.
I'm sure. Yeah, because they get the smell too. Well, we thank you again for joining us, and we're going to do another session next month, maybe with a wine tasting, maybe even live from my kitchen. We were talking about maybe switching it up and having some live action going on. So
Live from Rachel's kitchen. It's wine.
Actually,
we'll write a great script for that one.
More than one person in a room kind of situation. So anyways, feels good. And thank you all, really. And thank you, Chef, again, for being with us. These are definitely our alumni faves are your sessions. So thank you.
Yay. Yeah, please come back to school. We have a EMBA online. We have a master's online. We have cool classes. You get to hang out with me, Chef Mark.
Totally. Bring it on. Okay, well, you all stay safe and well out there, and we will see you soon. Keep an eye on your email, and we'll let you know about the next session.
Great. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.